Chapter 13, United Nations. In this chapter, we shall cover the objectives of the United Nations and the composition of the three main organs. They are General Assembly, Security Council, and International Court of Justice. United Nations or United Nations Organization was formally established on the 24th of October 1945. Reasons behind its establishment goes like this. The first point here speaks about the two disastrous and destructive wars, that is the First and the Second World War. Millions lost their lives and many people became disabled, homeless and unemployed. This brought in the leaders realize that it's time now for an international organization to be established so that the world peace could be maintained. Years before, after the First World War, this was taken as a promise by League of Nations. This League of Nations failed in keeping its promise, and therefore there was now a thought among the leaders that they need to establish a more powerful organization. By more powerful, I mean which is powerful than the League of Nations. Thirdly, the peace treaties that were signed after the First World War had already sowed the seeds of bitterness and conflict, which led to the Second World War. So people now had a fear that the Second World War again could be the cause of another war that would be the Third World War. Then this might lead to end of the world. Lastly, the weapons used in the wars were quite destructive in nature, and countries were now more into producing such weapons. The destructive weapons, especially atom bombs, were invented as well as used during the Second World War. These could bring an end to the whole world in no time. They also led to an armament race for more destructive weapons. So, different countries of the world now felt that they should set up an organization where they could meet as well as discuss methods by which they could save themselves and mankind from destruction. So, finally, three big people, that is, you can see them in the picture, sitting on with a sitting posture. It's Winston Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin. These are the three big men who came up with the idea of formation of United Nations organization. Now here this UN flag shows the UN emblem where it's a symbol of peace, and the statue that you could see is a symbol of peace which was gifted by Russia to the United Nations. The statue of peace or symbol of peace has got its own relevance. The pose itself speaks a lot. The right hand has got a hammer, and the left hand has got one such arm which is converted to a plow. It shows that the hammer hits the weapon and it turns out to a plow. Plow here is considered to be the symbol of peace. Let us now begin and look into the objectives of this organization established in 1945 on 24th of October. The most important objective was to look into the international peace and security. So for this, collective measures for the prevention and threats to be removed, acts of aggressions were to be suppressed, or breaches of peace were to be considered. So this became the first and foremost objective, that is, in short, to maintain international peace and security. Secondly, nations need to develop friendly relations among themselves. This would be based on respect for the principle of equal rights as well as self determination of the people. Thirdly, in order to achieve international cooperation in solving international economic, social, cultural, or humanitarian problems and encouraging respect for human rights as well as for fundamental freedoms. Lastly, this need to be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations in the attainment of these common ends. Apart from these four objectives, disarm, decolonize, and develop were the three new objectives that were set by the UN. Now let us look into who all comprise this UN. Since quite a while we have been talking about this organization. This organization is comprised of six principal organs: the General Assembly, the Security Council, the International Court of Justice, Economic and Social Council, Trusteeship Council, and the Secretariat. Among these six principal organs, we here are advised to learn about the three main organs composition. To begin with, we have the General Assembly. Just have a look to this. This is how General Assembly looks like. Its composition is, it is the main deliberative organ of the United Nations. Okay, main deliberative organ of the United Nations. That is, the work of the United Nations is determined by the will, okay, by the will of the majority of the members as expressed in resolutions adopted by the Assembly. Now, while the decisions of the Assembly have no legally binding force for governments, they carry the weight of world opinion on major international issues as well as the moral authority of the world community. This is General Assembly. Its composition goes like: all the members of the United Nations are the members of General Assembly. Each state has got 5 representatives in the General Assembly, but the vote is considered as one single representing the state. So even though there are 5 members, the vote comes as one from the state. The sessions of General Assembly begin each year on the third Tuesday in September and continues usually until the third week of December. Alright? Now, to ensure this equitable geographical representation, that is, at the start of each regular session, the Assembly elects a new president, 21 vice presidents, and the chairman. Okay, the chairman is chairman of the Assembly's 6 main committees. So this geographical representation, that is, equally it has been divided or geographically, that is, from all the areas they have been taken. This shows like the presidency of the Assembly rotated each year among 5 main groups. They were Africa, Asia, Eastern Europe, Latin America, and Caribbean, as well as Western Europe and other states. So some special sessions were convened by the Secretary General at the request of the Security Council or by a special request, that is, by a majority of members. Decisions were made by a 2/3 majority on important matters such as electing non-permanent member of Security Council, admitting new members, or say suspension of members. Apart from this, budgetary issues were also one of the matters. Next we have the Security Council. The Security Council is known to be the executive body of the United Nations. All right, executive body, that is which executes, or implements. So executive body of United Nations is Security Council, and its primary responsibility is maintaining international peace and security. This council functions continuously. A representative of each of its members must be present at all times at the United Nations headquarters. The composition of this council says, or it goes like this: this council consists of 15 members. It has 5 permanent members. They are quite important. You need to know them very well. China, France, Russia, Britain, and the United States of America. The regional representation of the 10 non-permanent members. So as I said, it consists of 15 members, out of which there are 5 permanent members. So the rest 10 members, they are the non-permanent members. They were Afro-Asian countries. Their representation was 5 in number. Then Latin American countries, they were 2 in number. West European and other countries, they were 2 in number. And East European countries, they were 1 in number. The 10 non-permanent members are elected by the General Assembly by a 2/3 majority for a term of 2 years. There's a retiring member, and this member is not eligible for any immediate re-election. The presidency of the council rotates monthly according to the English alphabetical listing of its member states. All decisions are made by the affirmative vote of 9 members, which includes 5 permanent members. This vote, there's a negative vote of permanent member, which is called a veto. The council is powerless to act if any of the permanent members use this veto power. We then come to the third main organ, the International Court of Justice. This is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. Its seat is at The Hague, Netherlands, and it began work in 1946 when it replaced the Permanent Court of International Justice, which had functioned in the Peace Palace since 1922. This court has a dual role to settle. In accordance with international law, the legal disputes submitted to it by the states, and to give advisory opinions on legal questions referred to it by duly authorized international organs as well as agencies. Let us look into its composition. This consists of 15 judges who are elected for a term of 9 years by General Assembly as well as Security Council independently. Not more than 1 judge from one nationality. That is, each nation will represent 1 judge from their nation. Elections are held every 3 years for 1/3 of its seat. The retiring judges here may be re-elected. They do not represent their governments but are independent magistrates. That's all for this chapter. Thank you, children.